And we are live, Mr. Hudson.
All right.
Guys, welcome to the Tangy Tea of Life. I'm your host, Veronica. I have Sheriff, the Darlington County Sheriff, Mr. James Hudson, joining me tonight. We are hoping that the City of Darlington Police Chief Kelvin, hopefully he will be joining us tonight as well. We was running behind time, so we decided to just go ahead with the live, and hopefully he will join us, and I will bring Chief Washington in if he's available to join us. Mr. Hudson, how are you?
I'm good. How about you?
I am good. It was a long day. I can imagine your day was long as well.
It has been.
I can't imagine. So we're going to jump right into it. Now, there is so much going on around our area, so much going on, and it's time for us to address it. That's why I was hoping Chief will join us as well, because there's a lot of senseless crimes, murders going on in our community, and it's just a sad situation. So many are grieving from the loss of loved ones due to the senseless killings, and too many youth are dying from the gun violence, and things been a little crazy, like I said, around here. So just wanted you to come on, and going to ask you some questions, and hopefully you can answer them and kind of enlighten everyone, because it's crazy out here. I asked some people from the community to send me some questions, so a lot of questions are coming from the community. So we're going to jump right into it. Do you think, and I'm going to jump right into it, do you think the recent incidents in Darlington are gang related? If so, what's being done to address the gang violence?
Well, we believe that there are a group of people that may want to participate in that particular area. It's not clear whether they're actually gang members or not. So that's stuff that we have to thoroughly investigate and make sure that we're right about what we're doing before we accuse anyone of being a part of any organization that they're not a part of.
Right.
The second part of that question is we're working together to provide the best service that we can provide in regards to keeping people safe. Mm-hmm. We're trying to talk to the different leaders in various communities around the county to assist us in talking to these kids and possibly developing programs so they'll have somewhere to go and something else to belong to besides the negative behavior that they're involved in.
Right. So are you all learning new ways of policing? Because do you think what you're doing is working right now?
Well, law enforcement has changed over the years, mm-hmm. and so has the people that are now displaying the negative behavior. But you also have to understand that the country as a whole has changed over time, and therefore we have to work accordingly to what's going on in our society, because people are more sensitive. You have social media where years ago you didn't have social media. Our violators are much younger than what they used to be, and more reckless than what they used to be. So we have to adapt to a lot of things, and we have to be very sensitive to the citizens of this county as well, because we understand that even though these may be violators that are committing different types of crimes, they are still someone's child, and we want to make sure that we keep that in mind, and we try to make sure that all the officers take diversity classes and understand that we have to be educated on what we're doing as well.
Right. What movement could police officers do in the community to help uplift our youth? Are y'all working like on programs or?
Well, I think society has looked for law enforcement for all the answers, and we don't have all the answers.
Mm-hmm.
When you look back in history, law enforcement was designed to do mainly one thing, and that was provide security for people who lived in whatever area. And as time has passed us by, we have been tasked with a number of other responsibilities that have relieved other entities of, and they should be involved in trying to provide services, create different programs for our kids as well.
Right. Okay. So I'm gonna take this question right quick. How difficult is it for you to function in law enforcement due to the recent climate? With the, yeah, he would have came with the big word, with the dude. How do you say that word? Y'all know I be getting tongue twisted over these. Of being law enforcement and a person of color. Voodoo, I'm gonna kill you because you know how I feel about.
Yeah. What's that question again?
How difficult is it for you to function in law enforcement due to the recent climate with DUALITY of being law enforcement and a person of color? I'm so ashamed. I should know that.
Well, if I understand that question correctly.
Can you see it? It's on the screen.
I have to widen my screen. Okay, I'm widening it now. How difficult is this for you to?
I butchered that word, as always.
Climate. Being law enforcement, a person of color. Okay. Well, that's a very good question. Whoever wrote that, that's a very good question. Voodoo child. Yeah.
Yes, Voodoo. He's in radio as well.
Okay. Well, that's a very good question. And normally I don't get asked that, but it's very difficult because the majority of the people that we arrest and repeated offenders they are people of color, and it's very difficult that when you have played ball with their parents or coached these kids in little league baseball, football, you grew up with them, you all grew up in the same community, you went to high school with them. It's very difficult because that's definitely not what you want to do. You don't want to be there where you have to arrest someone's child that you went to school with, played ball with,
right,
and been known for 20, 25 or 30 years. So it's a very uncomfortable feeling. But unfortunately, I've had to do that. And I guess that's why I'm so cautious and sensitive about how I go about doing my business. When I was actually out there in the field making arrests, and being an investigator and being a patrol officer, I've always thought about, well, I have 2 sons. How would I want them to be treated? Now, we really can't do that all the time because of the level of crimes that are being committed now. So we have to kind of find a balancing act, and that's very hard to do. But as a person of color, I'm working very hard to try to make a difference. That is what I want to do. That's one of the many reasons that I ran for this position. And I'm going to work hard for the people, as I said before, to try to make a difference. But as I also said before, we cannot do this alone. We need the help of the community to step in and step up and say we're willing to help. Let's come up with some solutions or some ideas. And that's where I'm at with that.
So someone asked the question, well, this is one of the questions that came from the community. And some officers, their voice tones really make people react the way that they do. Is there a better way to communicate with our youth or anyone else for that matter that would be beneficial to how people react to police tones?
Well, you know, some people say that I look mean, and because I have a deep voice, they say I'm a mean person, and
Mm-hmm.
I've been told that before, but I'm not a mean person. I can't help that I have a deep voice, but I try to, when I approach a situation, I try to look at it as if I want to de-escalate this thing as quickly as I can, as calmly as we can, without any injuries. So that's how I look at it. So I would, we all wear body cameras now.
Yeah.
That should be one thing that would cautious the officer and how he or she approach that situation, what tone they have, or what facial expressions they have, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure we do the right thing. We want to do right by everybody that we serve.
Right. So Sammy says this is very serious for a small town like Darlington. Yeah, it really is, and it's sad. It's sad. Fertine said this problem is, here they go with these words, most urban communities across these United States. Come on, can y'all be more simple? I'm a simple girl.
This problem is plaguing most urban communities across the United States. Yes, it is. It's a inner city urban communities. It's a big problem, and it has been for a long time. And in Chicago, I've looked at their numbers, and they're a whole lot worse off than we are in regards to shootings and homicides in the African American community. And they're trying to do the same thing, to just find a solution. How do we slow it down? How do we stop it? How do we change the behavior of our young men and women that have such disregard for life? And we have to understand that even though these things are taking place, it's not everybody. It's not all of our kids that are out here making bad decisions.
Right.
It's when we look at the numbers and we look at our reports, it's pretty much the same group of people. It's not all the kids that live in our communities. A lot of kids that are in our communities are trying to make something of themselves. They're going to school, they're going to tech, they're going to college, they're going into the military, they're getting jobs, they're trying to do the right thing. It's just that 10% that causes the havoc in our community, in our society. And the numbers that percentage is growing. And that's why we need to slow it down now.
Mr. Carl Goodson says, it is a known fact that gangs are formed when youth are from poverty-stricken areas that do not have any other outlets. The gang becomes their family, their life, and often their death. We need churches to open community centers and afternoon programs.
Well, he's exactly right. That's what we got to have. We got to have, back in the day, the churches was the sanctuary in the community. And I think we've somehow gotten away from that. But Mr. Goodson is exactly right. We have to step up as a Christian community, and we have to step our efforts up and try to assist some of these kids that are going through some of these things, not just the one who attend our own churches, but others as well. We have to reach outside of our church walls and define or recognize those kids who are in those situations and try to help them.
Ms. Rosen, I'm just going to take these questions that's coming through, and also people are texting me with questions, so I'm reminders all over the place. Ms. Rose said, "Thank you, cousin. Wishing you nothing but the best. You are going to do well."
Oh, thank you.
For Teen, one of my members here on Tangy T, he said we must have more intervention from family, concerned citizens, and gain how you say that? Interpreters on the ground to tackle this problem. I'm getting it. I'm a little nervous. I don't know why I'm nervous tonight. I don't know what's going on.
It's all right. It's all right. We got it.
We must have more intervention from family, concerned citizens, and gain interpreters on the ground to tackle this problem. Yeah.
That can be very helpful. It can be very helpful. We need all the assistance we can get.
Right.
You know, I've been doing this 26 years now, and I've worked my share of homicides as the lead investigator, and it never gets easy when you gotta get out your bed at 1 or 2 in the morning and go to a scene, and there's a 17 or 20 or 25-year-old laying there lifeless with a gunshot wound. Now, that never gets easy. So I've always been, and I'm gonna use the word big, I've always been begging for the help of different communities, because we gotta make a difference in what's going on. And the other part to that is some people don't want to get involved because they don't feel safe by doing that. And I respect that, and we try to be very discreet as we can when people do come to us with information. So there's a lot of things that is going on within the law enforcement arena that we are doing, and we're trying to make some progress. I was telling a group of men the other week, one of my goals is to sit down with ordinary citizens and educate them about how law enforcement actually works, because there's a very small percentage of our population that understands how we work, and there's a process to what we do, and it can be a long process, but it's a process that has to be followed if you're going to get the results that you want.
Right. So someone sent this question to me. What kind of programs do you have for the parents in the community, or has you issued a message to the parents?
Well, we have a program that is still in existence that we did in Hartsville, and that program is still in existence. As far as sending a message to the parents, I don't think I've figured out how to do that yet without offending some people. And you don't want to offend people because they can either help you or hurt you. So we have to be very difficult on how we communicate information to people in the community, especially when they don't really want to get involved. And they may think that you might be accusing them of their children or their child of being the problem in the community. So you have to be cautious about how you do that. So that's why we want to form a task force, a group of people, and to like be advisors, and then that group of people will be able to assist us in communicating to the community on what's going on, what law enforcement is trying to get done, and set a tone for information that will be able to give to those parents to, if you will, put them on notice, but at the same time not offend them.
So these are one of the questions. Where are these kids getting these guns from?
Well, we actually don't know. All we know is These kids are able to obtain weapons, and well, we do know. I'll change it. We do know they're coming from the very same communities that we live in. That's where they're coming from.
Mm. Sad.
Yeah.
Now I gotta find that question that's going back to that. Because she had a question about will the parents be held accountable? Like if they're getting the firearms from the homes, will the parents be accountable for, if when they get charged or anything with the parents?
Well, if you are a gun owner and your gun is stolen from your residence or your place of business, you need to report it soon as possible. And once you report that weapon and it's put in NCIC, which is the National Crime Information Center, then you're pretty much covered. And if that weapon shows up anywhere, then we have to do our job as law enforcement officers and find out where that weapon come from. The homeowner or the property owner reported stolen, so we know, they're pretty much good. And we also look at the character of the person as well, because we do sometimes get false claims and false reports.
Right.
But if you just give your gun to a person, knowing that person is going out to commit a crime or do something that they shouldn't do, you pretty much going to be accountable for that.
Right. Another question. Once schools are able to return to in-class sessions, which I believe that Darlington County has, how concerned should school officials be with gang activities on campus? I guess she's talking about when everybody goes back to school. How concerned should school officials be with gang activities on campus? Do schools have enough resources available to assist with an incident? And are they educated enough to know what to be aware of if students are involved in gang-related behavior?
We have an SRO at every school, all the way through elementary. And when we came in office, January 5th, I hired a gang person, and that's his sole job, is to work gangs. So that's what he's going to be doing, is just working gang activity. Darlington County School District is working closely with all law enforcement agencies to make sure that those type things don't occur in the school system, and if they do, things will be in place where we can handle those things as they occur.
Do you think invoking a curfew for school-age kids that's not working or involved in school activities will help with reducing these incidents? And could this help the adults maintain control or be held more accountable for their children's whereabouts?
I think it will help if the community will approve of it. Yes, if everybody would get involved and say, well, this is what we need to do to decrease crime and to know the whereabouts of our kids. If they want that to happen, and that's what the community want, then yes, I think it'll work. But the community, I mean, they gotta want that. We can't force that on people. The community has to accept that this is what is needed, or this is part of the puzzle that is needed to help decrease crime.
Right. So it says another question. We focus a lot on police brutality pertaining to African American males. Why are we not addressing the Black on Black murders, crimes that's happening in our communities daily?
I think that's the question for our community leaders. Your pastors and your longtime residents that live in your community that knows what's going on and have understanding what's going on. I think I'll be speaking out of place as a sheriff, as a law enforcement officer, to address that question. I think that needs to be addressed by the community is to why aren't there more people upset, and why aren't they really trying to do things differently? I'm trying, but I think that's a question for the community or communities to answer and get involved in.
Yeah. I can't imagine what it's like telling a parent that their son/daughter was involved in a homicide. What are some behavior signs you can provide to parents pertaining to things that could be a sign their kids are involved in illegal activities?
Well, I would probably say if they stay in your house, monitor their behavior. If they live in your house, you have the right to check their room at any given time. Make sure ain't no weapons in your house that don't belong to you. Make sure there's no illegal substance in your residence that don't belong to you. And just try to spend as much time with them as possible if you can. And that's the other thing. Most parents work all the time, especially single parents homes. They have to work, so they try to rely on different programs to assist them, because it's hard. People still have bills to pay. They still got to maintain mortgages and rent and other things that has to be taken care of. So
Right.
a lot of parents are just trying to do the best they can. But yeah, if they would do those things, just monitor behavior. Always check the rooms, making sure that everything that's in that room you bought or paid for, or if it shouldn't be there, it shouldn't be there. And try to who the friends are. Who is. You're gonna ask them who is so and so, and they're gonna give you the street name, but you want to know their legal name.
Right.
You want to know if you know their parents, because their parents may be having the same problem with something else. So knowing who your kids are hanging out with, who they're associating themselves with, is very important. And sometimes that you can do. A lot of times you can do everything you think is right as a parent, and it still don't turn out the way you want it to.
Right.
So we also have to take that into account. I don't think there's
Mhm.
a handbook on raising kids. At least I hadn't
Mhm.
found it.
Right.
So a lot of it is just being patient, trying to give them encouragements every chance you get, knowing who their friends are, trying to keep them in sports or some positive activity. And I think, you just do the best you can as a parent. I don't think no parent should blame themselves when something happens, especially knowing that they did everything they could do.
Right. And there's so much out there for these young people to get involved in, like things that we as parents don't even know about, like so much that they can get involved with. So we're going to go to some more questions, comments. Michael says, so how do you identify high risk offenders? If so, at what age can you recognize this?
High risk offenders.
Mm-hmm.
I guess he would be saying repeated offenders, and that would be they're in the system. I mean, once if I got to arrest you more than once, I begin to look at your arrest rate, and you keep getting arrested, that means you're a high risk offender. In my personal opinion.
Let's see. It was one thing, the church would not reach everyone in this younger generation.
I agree. You're not going to reach everyone. No community is, no church is, but you try to reach out and touch as many as you can. The
Right.
bottom line is we're not going to save everybody. Everybody's not going to get their heart right and be saved and go to heaven. Some gonna go to heaven and some gonna go to hell. That's just how simple that is.
Mm.
And we're not gonna be able to save every child. And we also have to remember now, this is what we live in. We're living in these times now. This is what we are experiencing now. So this ain't just started. It's been going on for centuries, but we are living in it now.
Right.
So it's we don't like it. We want to change it, but it's not nothing new up under the sun.
Yeah. Voodoo says recreation centers programs that parents can afford are almost non-existent. Yeah, it was so much at one point, you know, recreation centers and things like that, that kids can enjoy and get involved in. But now it's
I agree. I remember those recreation centers and different programs. And I know when I was in school, there was a program called JTPA or JPA. It was a work program for the summer for students that were in middle school and high school, and it don't exist anymore. But that kept a lot of kids. That gave a lot of kids something to do during the summer because they worked and they got a check, so they had something to do.
right.
But you know, every kid's not going to be able to go to the Hibbett Sports and get a part-time job. They're not going to be able to go to IGA or Piggly Wiggly or buy a little food line and get a part-time job. And then those kids that, you know, a lot of kids want to do right.
Yeah.
But there are just so many, as you said earlier, so many things out there that they are faced with in today's world and society that I didn't have when I was coming up. I wouldn't, you know, I wasn't faced with all those things. I had a part-time job at age 14, and I worked every summer.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it's just a little different now.
Yeah. Mr. Goodson says America has painted a sad and disheartening picture of law enforcement, especially in the Black community. Darlington must be the town that treats all races with dignity and respect. We have African American leaders in law enforcement, so the change must start with us.
I'm here. I'm willing to do everything I possibly can and use all the resources I possibly can to do just that. But I'm only one person.
Yeah. Everyone needs to get involved. Let's see, look like Chief Washington is joining us now. The City of Darlington Police Chief, Chief Washington. Good to have you on the T. Let me get this right. Chief Washington, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you all?
What's up, friend?
Good.
Hey, sir. How you doing? Sorry I'm late, guys.
Oh, you're fine. Busy day for you too, huh?
Absolutely. Sheriff had me wide open today.
Well, good to see you. So glad to have you with us. Guys, this is Chief Washington with the City of Darlington Police Department. So, Chief, we're just here talking about all the stuff that's going on in our communities and how can we pretty much come together as a community and like get things under control. So we're taking questions from our viewers, and also I've been asking Mr. Hudson questions that I had down here that came from folks from the community as well. So here is one that we was getting ready to get into from Mumble. Give the community a new business. We need more than Northside Seafood. There's no balance when every job that pays well is not walking distance to the community. We have to teach the youth about taxes, building credit, owning a house, gun safety. The community needs to be able to trust each other again than seeing ourselves as the enemy. So let's talk about the trust when it comes to law enforcement. What are you guys doing when it comes to the community trusting? Because you know a lot of people have lost trust in law enforcement. What are you all doing as far as telling your officers? Are they going out in the community and showing their faces and things like that? Like what are you all doing or saying to your officers?
Well, I know
If that makes sense.
us, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, we different community relations projects that we work on from time to time throughout the community. One of the other programs that we do, I mean, and I know that Sheriff Hudson participates participates in this program as well. Obviously, it's our school resource officer program, which not only provides safety and security in our schools, but also gives the police officers an opportunity to interact with with young people at school that are at school ages, if that makes any sense. So I would think those two things are the most important things. Also being accessible, and both of us are accessible. And anybody that wants to communicate with either one of us, I mean, all they got to do is just give us a call, and just being accessible and available to the community. We both do quite a few different speaking engagements throughout the community, and we try to make ourselves available to the public. So I think those are the foundations as it relates to being able to have a good solid relationship with the community as it relates to communication.
Mr. Hudson, you want to add to that?
Yeah, and he's right. We're doing those things, and we've also put the patrol guys in zones, along with the investigators that are working criminal cases. They're in zones, and what that does, they get to know the community, and they've been instructed that they need to know who's in their zone. They need to know first names, last names. They didn't know everything they can about the people that live in the zones that they're working. And the community is to respond to that, so that we can have a trustworthy relationship. And we did the same thing in Hartsville, and I tell you, it works. I'll tell anybody, community policing works, and that's what I mean. His question is all about community policing. It works, but it takes both sides to make it work.
Yeah. And that goes to what Voodoo says. Police officers are not full-time guidance counselors. The community is also doing a terrible job of preparing our young people. Yeah, that's a true statement. A lot of people think that police officers are the only ones that's supposed to be working the communities and, bringing the community together. But it takes all of us to work together to bring the community together. Latasha, she says community partnerships and interventions are very important. We have to find a way to meet our youth where they are at an early age and seek ways to try to make a difference. We have to pull together, pray, stand firm, and be consistent. Very true.
I tell you what, your callers are spot on. I mean, thus far, I mean, they are spot on.
Right.
They're hitting dead on the money about some of the things that we need to be doing differently.
Yes, definitely.
I think the frustration has reached a point where people are willing to sacrifice now and get involved, and sometimes it has to be that way. But I know Chief Washington is willing. I'm willing.
Yes.
We're here. We're here. We just need the help of the community.
Right. Now, one of the questions, Chief Washington, was about a curfew. Do you think invoking a curfew for school-age kids that's not working or involved in school activities will help with reducing these incidents? And Mark says law enforcement. Wait a minute, that's not the one I wanted. He says something about a curfew will not help because shootings are taking place during the day. But how do you feel about a curfew for school-age kids?
I don't think we're at that point yet. But I think that if it continues, I think that that is something that may be considered by the governing bodies. But again, I would do that in consultation with the sheriff and with our governing body.
Mm-hmm. Sammy says, one big problem is with black on black crime is the black community don't show the interest or concern we do if it is a white cop on black crime. Crime is crime. And that's very true. There'll be a lot of protesting going on when it involves a white officer killing a black male or a black female. But what are we doing about this black on black crime?
Is that a question for us?
I'm sorry, what you
said?
said?
That's just a comment for, that's a comment made?
Yeah. Okay. So I know y'all may not want to touch that, but yeah, that is it's a question. Like, what are we doing when it comes to the black on black crime? Are we just sitting back and waiting for the next one? Like, what are we doing? Let's see what else. Because a lot of people are commenting on the black on black crime as well. Let's see. What are the kids watching? What games they playing with? Who they hanging out with? What you put in the funnel will yield those results. Yeah, we have to be careful what our kids are watching on TV, and we have to be careful about the company that they keep, where they're going, all of that, because we all know hanging with the wrong crowd. Not saying that what you see you do, but there's so much peer pressure out there. So kids can get caught up in, doing the wrong thing. I'm trying to find a question here because there's a lot of comments coming through, but I'm actually trying to find a question for you guys. Let's see. Ms. Rosa, it will be a great idea to have a family engagement night where families become involved with what is happening in Darlington. Parental engagement is a powerful tool. Many parents feel inadequate, make them feel important, and is a necessary element in their child's behavior. As stated, some children have lost respect for adult leadership because of what they have seen or been treated by an adult. Curfews could eventually single out people of color and result in a racial profiling and create less trust in law enforcement. All right, so let's see. So someone says, a word on the street says that gang members stake out, park at gas stations, food establishments, or any place they feel their targets will show up. Are you aware of this? And if so, what are you doing to control this? Or if not, could this activity be monitored?
Well, we as I said earlier, we have hired a gang investigator. And I know for a fact that Chief Washington has guys on the ground that are working these accusations about what some people would consider to be a gang. So it's like I said early on, I think we need to be very cautious and careful about how we identify a group of people that may or may not belong to what you consider to be a gang. So that would be my take on that. I just think we need to be cautious about that because we have to be able to prove what we're speaking.
Let's see. How safe do you feel in Darlington? How comfortable are you with your family members going to our local establishments alone, knowing they could get caught up in an altercation just by having a conversation with the wrong person, not knowing they're involved with the gang?
Well, let me say this. I know that we're focusing tonight on the incidents that have taken place recently in and around the Darlington community. But one of the things that I want to make sure that the viewers know and understand, these issues that Sheriff Hudson and I are dealing with are not limited to just the Darlington community. This is a national issue. This is not just an issue that's limited to Darlington. These are national issues that we are now dealing with in Darlington. But now, and so I don't want to. I don't want anyone to be to mistake or be misunderstood by anything. There, these issues are going on all over the country, all over the state, and so we're not the only ones. We're not the only ones. Because I've heard comments from people. Well, I'm moving to so and so area, and I'm like, well, evidently you're not reading the newspaper because those areas are having the same issues.
Right.
And so, I mean, the sheriff and I, we communicate with sheriffs and chiefs from all over the state, and quite a few jurisdictions are having these issues. It's not just us. Quite a few areas are having this issue.
So I asked this question earlier, Mr. Hudson. Are you all learning new ways of policing?
Yes, ma'am, we are. We're always looking for new ways to approach a situation or approach something that we may or may not be familiar with. So, and again, that goes back to being cautious and sensitive to the communities that you live in. One of the things is knowing your community. We don't want to go in with too much of an iron fist because that's might rub some people wrong. So my way, I'm sure since I've been working with Chief Washington, his way as well is to engage the community and identifying the problem and then trying to find a solution. Yeah, they teach you that in school. It's hard to find a solution to a problem if you don't know what's causing the problem.
Right.
So we're trying to identify why this is happening at an alarming rate, and so we can get with the community leaders and the people in the community who want to participate and try to find a way to reduce it, if not get rid of it altogether.
What, Chief Washington, do you have something to say about that? Or new ways of policing?
Well,
so
I mean,
what would you?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead. No, you're fine.
Things are changing, and we've had to address our ways of policing. There's traditional methods. Police now are being asked to do things that years ago we didn't have to do. The calls for service have increased, and the kinds of things that we're being called for now are just totally different than the kinds of service that the calls for service that myself and Sheriff Hudson would be called out when we first began in this career, in this field. And so the officers are having to be versatile in a number of different areas now in order to perform. And so we're asking quite a bit now of these officers. And so I'd like for the public to take those things into consideration. They're being called to do a whole lot of stuff now that 25, 30 years ago, they were not called to do.
Yeah. Definitely a difficult time to be in law enforcement.
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Definitely.
And nobody wants to do this job anymore. That's black or white. You can't find people that want to work this job anymore.
Yeah.
So just get behind us and push us and pray for us and keep coming up with new ideas and And we work together, we can make a difference.
Well, and just because there are like people that don't want to be in law enforcement any longer, but you guys still they still have to go through the same training and all that. You're just not going to just push people through the academy just because, you know, there's a shortage in law enforcement, or, you know, no one wants to be a part of law enforcement anymore. They still have to go through training and do all the correct things, right?
Yes.
Like there's no change in that.
Actually, that has gotten better, because now there's a prerequisition that they have to do before they can even get into the academy, and that's a 4-week course. That's a written exam and a physical exam as well before they can even get into the academy now. So that helps remove those who should be in law enforcement. But now there's always a two-sided coin to that. That also may stop those from getting in who really needs to be in law enforcement, because everybody are not good test takers. So, you know, sometimes the test kind of keeps the good ones out. But there are things in place that makes it more difficult to get certified in the state of South Carolina now.
So someone asked the question, what calls are different that are preventing your officers from being community police? Give examples, please.
Well, I don't think we ever said that they're not community police officers. They all are participating in community-oriented policing. But I think, 25, 30 years ago, when we first got into law enforcement, we didn't have people calling us because their kid won't go to school. You know, the calls for service were much, much less. Now we're getting calls for a whole lot of different things that we just didn't get calls for, years ago.
Ms. Rosa asked the question, why don't you all petition for a Boys and Girls Club of America? This would give them a place to go for fun and recreation.
Now, who was supposed to petition for that? See, that goes back to what the chief is saying, and what has been said for years now. There's a association, and I watched this back in last year when all this unrest was going on, and there was a chief out in Texas that resigned from her post because of so much unrest, and she said the same thing that Chief Washington basically said. We are asked to do so much. So who is supposed to implement and start that program? Is that something else law enforcement is supposed to do? Or is that something that the community is supposed to spearhead and get done?
Right. Let's see. Okay, and here's another statement about gangs, which we don't know. Like you said, we don't know if these shootings are gang related. The gangs are very problematic in all ghettos around the world. There doesn't seem to be any leaders or lawmakers or enforcers or strong in what's that word? That wants to approach these gang members and talk some sense in their minds. I'm just stumbling all over the words tonight. So she's pretty much saying that there's not any leadership that is stepping up to talk sense in these youngsters' mind.
Can I make a comment on that? Dr. King made a statement many years ago that we all have the opportunity to be great because we all have the opportunity to serve. serve. We all have the opportunity to serve. And I don't mean this for the person who made that comment, but I'm just making a general statement here. Gandhi said, changes in the world begin with changes. We are the changes that we want in the world.
Right.
And so we have to make those changes. It should not be left up to Chief Washington or Sheriff Hudson or yourself to make those changes. The people who are posting comments tonight, they have a voice. And they have an opportunity to serve. It can be as influential as we are, especially if they bring those voices together collectively. You know, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And so
Right.
I think that there's an opportunity there for everyone that's posting tonight to be able to go out and make a difference. And I'm thinking that's what Sheriff Hudson has been saying tonight as well. You know, the community, you know, the community has an opportunity here to get involved. They have every opportunity that we have. In fact, they have more because they see more than we see. And so, you know, we're ready, waiting, and willing.
So Avery says we have to stop putting the blame on policing and leadership and start placing the blame on the parents. It does start at home.
Well, if you will, I think I touched on that earlier in the program that we can't place all the blame on parents for things that their kids may get themselves involved in.
Right. Yeah.
Because at a certain age, especially when those kids begin to pick and choose friends that you may or may not approve of, they're going to do things that as a parent we don't approve of, and you know we got to be very mindful. You know, we were young, we were that 15, 16, 17-year-old, and it kind of goes back to what Chief Washington is saying about the law enforcement side of it. We didn't have all the things. When we were being raised, we weren't faced with some of the stuff that our kids and are being faced with now. There was no social media. They didn't have cell phones, credit cards. Most of us didn't have cars to let our kids drive. There was very limited places for them to go. So it's just, you know, I think that we shouldn't just blame one aspect of this. You know, there's enough blame to go around, and everybody needs to kind of pitch in and try to work together to try to make it better. Kids gonna be kids. You know, it is what it is. But no parent should feel guilty about doing the best job that they possibly can do to raise their child. And if they've done that, then they've done their duty.
So what advice can you all send to teenagers out there that are they just in that wrong zone right now? Like they just out there just looking for trouble. Like what advice can you all give them to try to turn their life around? If any, do y'all have any advice?
Well, I think what I would offer is, number one, no matter what they've gotten themselves into, it's never too late to stop. It's never too late to just stop and don't go any further. Don't get in any deeper. Stop right where you are. My advice to families is that if you got a 16 or 17-year-old and you're going through his dresser drawers and you find a gun. Okay, why are you going to close the drawer back and leave the gun in there? And you know that that young man is not supposed to have a gun. You know, there's some responsibility on the parents as well. You know, I was speaking with a friend of mine, well, actually a relative, um, and he said something to me. He told me a story about he and his dad. They were in a grocery store one day, and there was a teenager in there, and he was cutting up and acting up. And his dad looked at him and he said, son, you see that young fellow over there? He said, yeah. He said, now the difference between you and him is that you're being raised, but that young man is just growing up.
Mm.
And we got too many people that are just growing up and not being raised.
Right.
And we're gonna have to be more responsible and accountable. We are our brothers and sisters' keepers. And as we said earlier, and I think Sheriff Hudson agrees, and I think for the most part, from the comments that you were reading, the majority of the commenters agree that, the public has a stake in this. The public has some skin in this game. And so we're going to have to all come together collectively. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. We're all going to have to come together collectively to try to take care of this issue within our communities. Again, this issue is not limited to just Darlington and surrounding communities. This is a nationwide problem.
Right.
And you know, I hope we recognize that we have other elected officials and appointed officials that has a stake in this as well.
Yeah.
That's right.
Do you have any advice? Go ahead, Mr. Hudson.
I'm sorry, say again?
No, I think I cut you off. You was finished?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you have any advice for the young people out there that's lost?
Well, my advice would be just what Chief Washington said. It's never too late. So if we have young people out there that are feeling uncomfortable or looking for assistance, please ask. Please ask. I give cards out to young people all the time. Say, man, if you got a problem, call me. Yeah, I ain't gonna tell you I'm gonna have all the answers, but I'll do what I can. But I think a lot of times we don't get the results that we're looking for because we don't ask. So we need to tell them to ask. I mean, reach out, go to the pastor, go to the family member, come to the Lord, or go to the chief of police, the sheriff. Somebody ask. Guidance counselor, school principal, football coach, baseball coach, basketball coach. Ask. Hey, listen, I got a problem. I need some help. And that's the only way that we're going to
officer.
Yeah, school resource officer. That's at
Yeah.
the school every day.
Exactly.
And so just ask. Go to somebody and say, I need help. I gotta have some help. And in order to get help, you got to identify. You gotta say, I do have a problem, and I want help for it. And then that starts the ball rolling. But please, that would be my advice, ma'am.
I mean, and there's no need to be ashamed. Speaking to the young adults out there, there's no need. I mean, if you need help, if you feel like someone is threatening you, bothering you, like you said, go to someone. I'm quite sure it will be, a private setting. No one has to know, but at least they, they went to someone to let them know that they need help. But yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I've been all over the place tonight. Like there's messages coming to my phone, on the computer screen. My mind is everywhere. So if I look like I'm not here, I'm focusing on what you guys are saying as well, and trying to read these comments that are coming through so fast. But we definitely appreciate both of you. I know you both had long days today. You guys look extremely tired. There's so much going on out there in our communities, and I just wanted you guys to come on and just shed some light. Like the community wants to know what is going on, what law enforcement is doing about all these senseless crimes, murders that's going on with our youth. Like it's horrible. But like you said, Chief Washington, is not only in Darlington, it's everywhere that's taking place. But concerned citizens want to know, because this was actually something that was sent to me saying that I should have a show, based around this.
Right.
These crimes that's going on in our communities. So I really appreciate you guys for coming on. There's a lot of comments. There's a lot of comments that's coming through. I'm so sorry that I didn't get to all of them. Let's see. One says we are the problem as the older generation. Let's see. Clarence Washington did a community outreach seminar to help youth. Maybe someone should look at it. A program like that. Clarice, is it Clarice Washington?
Janie Washington and Clarence Washington
did a community outreach seminar. Is there a place where the community can go and talk as a community about what's going on in our area?
Right now with the pandemic still going on, it's made it kind of difficult for us to speak in settings where we can have large groups together. So we've been somewhat restricted by that. But obviously, there's some technology that we may be able to utilize in order to make that happen. So, where there's a will, there's a way. And so
Yeah.
If we've got enough people interested in it, we'll try to make something happen. And I'm sure Sheriff Hudson feels the same way.
Yes.
We'll make something happen.
Meanwhile, if there's any citizen that would like to speak to me one-on-one or as a group, a small group, you can come to the office. You can come to 1621 Harrisburg Highway with the sheriff office, and I'll be more than happy to sit down and speak with you. We have an open door policy. If I'm not there, one of the staff officers or the office manager will call me on the phone, and I will come back, or I can come to your place of work or your residence. But we want to make this work, and so I'm here for you.
Same here. I echo his sentiments. Same with me. I'm at 400 feet. I'm normally there all day, every day. And if I'm not in the office, one of the administrative assistants will contact me, and we certainly will try to accommodate you in any way possible.
And I do want to say hearts and prayers are going out to all the loved ones that have lost a loved one from senseless crimes. We know a 17-year-old just got murdered. I think that was last week. And then I think it was a 15-year-old in Florence. Like, it's just sad, the things that we are seeing that's taking place in our community. So I think that's why a lot of people are concerned and worried about even stepping out their door, that something can happen. And like I said, that's why I wanted you both to come on and shed some light on what's taking place in our communities. But our prayers are definitely going out to the parents, the grandparents, all the loved ones that have lost loved ones, had to bury a son or a daughter, you know, due to this senseless crime. Our prayers are definitely going out to them. And I thank you both for coming on tonight. We'd love for you to come back on the T and, you know, for anytime, you're welcome to come on the T. Like I said, I know it's been a busy day for you both. Sorry the show was so late tonight, but thank you guys so much for joining me. I'm not going to hold you any longer. I will be going through the comments for all of you that left comments and I didn't get to your comments. Thank you so much for watching the T. And Sheriff Hudson or Chief Washington, do you all have anything to say before we close out?
Yeah. Listen, I just want to thank you all for this opportunity, and I apologize again for running late. Just like I said, it was long day, and I apologize. Please accept my apologies for being late. But again, thank you for hosting us this afternoon.
You're welcome.
And same here. Thank you for allowing us to be on your show again, and thank you for everything that you are doing for the community. You are using your platform as a voice to get information out there to the people that otherwise wouldn't be able to get it. So I want to thank you personally for that. Thank all your viewers and callers for the comments. Sound like from the comments that people are ready to go. They're ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go with them. So I just want to thank you again. And just everybody be safe.
Thank you. Appreciate you both for what you all are doing as well in the community. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining the T. Everyone, thank you so much for watching tonight. If you would like to be a guest on Tangy Tea of Life, please email me at tangyteaoflife@gmail.com. You can leave a message right here in my messenger. And we're live Facebook and YouTube. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a good night and be safe out there.